What is up, everyone? Welcome back. I hope you all had a great Tuesday. Gonna do a quick stream today real quick just to go through the trades today, and then the main purpose of this video is going to be to just look at my THINKORSWIM setup, because I know eventually that'll be an inevitable question, and I'll just show you kind of what I've been using to swing trade and day trade, and sort of the metrics that or the indicators that I'm using and how I'm using them, and kind of just go through the basics, and then in future videos we'll dive into those indicators more specifically individually for a little bit more education on each one of them. So but for now, let's just do a quick recap of the market for me today, and then we'll go into that sort of setup stuff. So let me switch over here. Okay. You can see today was a bit of an up and down day. Grand total profit only 50 cents today. That was on 3 trades. You know, honestly, I'm okay with the way that today ended. We'll go through both of the positions. TEVA is one that if you watched the last couple of videos, you know I've been holding as a swing trade. I plan to continue to hold that. You know, we were planning on getting in here, the break above $22, and it sort of rejected at that resistance level here at about $22.30. And went back down, and then it recovered, and so bought in kind of right here at this second dip with a plan to watch it head back the other direction. And it definitely was, you know, if you look at the RSI during that period, definitely overbought or oversold on the RSI. Definitely had a good MACD indicator, MACD crossover right here. Things turning positive, and a buy indicator here on the custom RSI MACD trigger at the bottom there. And you know, it's not forming a super strong pattern. It didn't have a ton of movement. Didn't have a ton of movement in the positive direction today. It started out pretty good. I think it was actually up. If we go to the intraday 1 day 1 minute chart, you can see it actually was up. Let's see here, about 4%, and then lost 2.29 of that percent back, and then it's making a little bit of progress after hours. You know, potentially back in the positive direction. So we'll see. Have a pretty tight stop on here still. Don't want to lose money on this trade. I've kind of been holding it for a few days now, waiting for it to kind of confirm this pattern that it seems to be forming on the 180-day chart. You know, with a potential, you know, from our entry, with a potential percentage of, you know, 16% or so, and a stop loss at a loss of about 1%. So we'll see. Not moving incredibly well at the moment, but that doesn't mean that it won't. And you know, we'll cut our losses very quickly if it starts to go in a direction that we didn't anticipate. The new one today was TRXC. Now this is one that called out in the last video because we were seeing this nice ascending pattern, sort of using the SMA as support right here with a little bounce under through this period here, but generally speaking likes to bounce off of that. I don't know why sometimes it does this and won't let me click out of it. And so, you know, had a nice bounce off, pushed up to a high of 725, and then started, got rejected at 725, consolidating again around this 550 level. And then what we're looking for is this pattern that we're seeing right here, and actually looking pretty good right now. So you can see, you know, I bought in this morning. Looking at it yesterday, I was kind of waiting for it to make 2 or 3 green candles in the direction that we're looking for. It just did that this morning, so bought in. Unfortunately, if we go to the intraday chart here, unfortunately, bought in here, and then it had this big sell-off right at the beginning of the day. So lost like 50 bucks, cut losses there, but still really believe in this pattern that it's forming. And so as it started to make new highs, as it crossed that middle VWAP there, started bouncing between the upper and the middle VWAP, which is a good sign for continuing momentum in the positive direction. Got back in some point in that period, and it sort of grinded all day, up, down, up, down, up, down, and overall was down $18 on the day with that one. I'm still holding the position at 200 shares, and was up 30 on the second position, and then of course lost the 48 on the first position. So both TEVA and TRXC are positive on the open, but overall that first loss on TRXC sort of wiped out any gains today, minus the 2 quarters. So that's what we're looking at today. Now I just want to go, we'll go back to my stuff is set up mostly for looking at the 180-day chart. So let's just look at TRXC, since it's a pretty good example of the type of patterns that we're looking for, and then we'll bump down to TEVA and see how these are also applied there. So in my setup, again, using the ThinkorSwim platform in the paper money side right now, I'll flip over to the live account in a little bit to show one additional thing, but generally speaking, they're identical in terms of their setup. This is the default view that I like to look at. I've got my watch list here on the left. Now this is the list, over here is the list I have of positions that I'm in right now. I've also got a list for stocks that I'm watching that are forming interesting patterns, stocks that I traded previously, and then my main watch list, which is sort of like a pending, as I like to trade like these reversals into the positive. Pending reversals is sort of the main watch list. Excuse me. I have the live news linked to the main chart as well as the watch list. So as I change between the stocks I'm looking at on the watch list, I get the chart, I get all my indicators, get the chart, get all my indicators down here, and get any news, which pops up in a new window if you click on it. And you can also see the news indicators here. In terms of the setup on the main chart here, I have a volume set as overlay down here at the bottom, so I don't have to waste space here with that volume indicator. And then you would see as like the default, the volume that's here, these bars would actually be like a separate strip down here, which just kind of takes up too much space. In terms of the indicators themselves, let me go into studies and edit studies. So this is what I have set up. I have this on my live account as well as the paper money account. So I've got 3 exponential moving averages, or EMAs. I've got a 9, 13, and 50 EMA, and they kind of descend in brightness. They're all blue, but it's like the bright blue is the 9, and then there's like a slightly darker shade of blue, and then a pretty subtle shade of blue for the 50. This bright yellow line right here is just 180-day simple moving average, nothing fancy there. And then I have the VWAP. Now the VWAP is set to look at the intraday chart, so that I can look at it when I flip, because that's the main indicator that I'm watching day to day is the VWAP. I like that for support and resistance levels the best. It shows up in here, which is why these bars are so sort of messy looking. You can see if you get in that you've got these VWAP indicators, the upper, middle, and the lower VWAP sort of on the daily chart. And you can see it's sort of helpful if you get in. If you get in here, like you can see, like today we were sort of trading above the middle VWAP, and like days where it's going down, it's sort of trading below the middle VWAP, and that is what you would expect. But really that becomes useful if you go to the intraday chart, and then you can see the VWAP very clearly, and you can see that it's trading between the upper here and the middle VWAP. Here's your lower VWAP down here. Have our stop kind of right below the middle, or the lower VWAP right now. and not really getting close to hitting that. We'll see what it does overnight, and if it's sort of making a trend in that direction, it might get out if it looks like it's not going to hold the pattern it was looking at, or it was looking like from earlier on. So let's go back to the 180-day, talk about what's down here. So for those of you who have been doing this for a little while, or even these are pretty common studies, I like to keep things pretty simple. Keep it simple. Stupid is a nice mantra for this kind of stuff. So what you can see here is that we've got a RSI. I've got my bar set at 70 and 30. 70 above 70 would give you this red oversold or overbought signal, and below 30 would give you this blue oversold symbol. You can see right now, we're sort of in the middle, and it follows this pattern. Like with each one of these oscillations, it follows this pattern pretty well, right? So you've got it gets overbought, it sells, it gets overbought, it sells off, it gets oversold, and then it gets overbought, and it sells off, and it gets oversold, it gets overbought. Not quite clipping the 30, but still like close and getting down there. And you can see right now, when we go to the pattern that we're looking at right now, it is currently was oversold, didn't clip the lower RSI line, but still clearly oversold, reversing, and we're not at the top yet, so that's good. Again, MACD sort of following a similar pattern as it has before. In terms of the MACD, so this is a momentum study. Again, I'm going to go into these in much more detail in a future video on the way that I use them and why I think they're useful. The MACD, we bought in right as it was starting to show a change in positive momentum. So right around here is where we bought in, and we've been holding it now for a little over a day. And really the MACD cross just occurred after hours today, or right at the end of the day, and you're starting to see that positive on the MACD after hours. So still feeling pretty good that this thing could very well go test this $7 range, and that's where my limit sell will be, somewhere right around that 7. If it's like really accelerating in that direction, it doesn't look like you're getting, like you can see here as it got close to that $7, it was already slowing down, sort of already kind of going in the wrong direction. I probably would have sold if I had traded on this last move positive. I probably would have sold, potentially would have sold here. If I got lucky, would have probably sold like around the 660 range and not caught that 725. And the same thing may happen here. So if it gets to 650 or 660 or 670 or 680 or something like that, and the MACD is starting to have this peak and starting to move in the other direction, we kind of know where we're going. It doesn't mean it's just because it's doing just because it's moving down on the MACD like this doesn't mean that it's going red every day. It just means that the momentum has shifted, and you don't have the positive momentum that you had before. So it's getting close to time to sell. Can a stock do what it did right here, kind of sell off a little bit, consolidate, and then have had a big red day here, which really consolidation here kind of looks like this, and then it accelerates again and then has a big sell off? It can, but you got to decide where you're comfortable with risking. At this point, we're going to be up 10% or something like that. I'm probably going to lock it in there profit wise. So nothing really else on the watch list that wasn't there yesterday, so or the day before. Nothing new. There were a couple that popped up from old alerts that I had, but nothing new that I saw. Kind of a slow day overall. So take a look at the video from yesterday to see kind of what's on the general watch list, and then we will see what happens tomorrow. Really excited to see what TRXC does tomorrow morning. TEVA, we'll see. It's not looking bad yet, but certainly this is not super strong. This MACD right now is not super strong, but it's still going. I mean, the momentum is still pointing up, so you can see if you zoom out, it makes it a little bit more positive, I guess. But we're still moving in the right direction. The MACD just crossed yesterday in terms of these indicators here. So, I didn't talk about this custom thing at the bottom. So this is a simple script. I can go into it in a different video. Basically, all it does is it looks at the stock and it talks about it looks at the stock and it looks for the two conditions. One condition being that the RSI is oversold, so blue under this indicator right here. So you can see that that was true in this point. And then it's looking for 2 bars on the MACD going in the positive direction. So basically from here to here to here, that was 2 bars, 1, 2, going in the positive direction. RSI is oversold, you get a spike, buy signal. Here, blue, RSI, because it kind of like did another little dip right here, right? So the RSI or the MACD, excuse me, had time to change from a momentum perspective. It was bright red, dark red, meaning we're moving in the direction. 1, 2, spike. So I find that useful just to like point out potentially good entry points or where you're getting close to good entry points. Personally, like in this case, I didn't get in right at this spike. Sort of wanted to wait and see the confirmation of this change. But you know, if you wait till here, then it might be too late.